Good Thursday morning, good people. This is Doug Farrar, editor of Touchdown Wire on the USA Today Sports Media Group Network, along with Mark Schofield, our 5-tool guy. And Mark, week 5, are we hitting the wall? I'm hitting the wall. I have to like run around the wall and do things, but oh boy.
People that are listening to this or watching this probably know I do that like 3-throw series on YouTube.
Yep.
And on YouTube, on Twitter. See, yeah, the wall.
There are guys, by the way, there are guys copying you on that and giving you credit now on Twitter.
Yeah.
I saw someone do that this morning, which is like, okay, Mark's got a thing.
Eric, yeah, and other people are like snipping it and like giving me credit too. Like Eric Crocker, when I did one on Lawrence, I guess last Thursday or Friday, he like snipped just the one throw.
I like him a lot.
Put it up there. It tagged me and everything. So we appreciate it. That's fun. But the first one I did this week, Monday morning, before coffee, was Dak Prescott. And I recorded the video.
Never watched tape before coffee.
Well, here it is.
You know this.
I know. Because I put it up. I felt good about it. Felt good off the bat. Felt good when I pushed send. I'm walking to the bus stop with my kids, and my phone starts melting down. And it's all these Cowboys fans saying, put some respect on our guy's name. He's not Zach Wilson. Because I had called him Zach Wilson. So I had to, like, once the kids get on the bus, run home, redo the video, and put it up again. So, yeah, the wall is here, and it's real.
Yep. I have a fascinating stat about Zach Wilson. And by fascinating, I mean, when we get to him and the Jets and all that. But let's start with the Rams at Seahawks. I'll be at this game. I'll be in the press. Yeah. First time I've been in a press box in Super Bowl 54, so that's kind of fun.
Very fun.
What's not fun for the Rams is how they looked against the Cardinals, especially Matthew Stafford. We'll get into the Cardinals defense, later in the show. The Rams are coming off a loss to the Cardinals, who hadn't beaten them since 2016 when Bruce Arians was their head coach and Cliff Kingsbury was at Texas Tech with some guy named Patrick Mahomes. So that was, Russell Wilson in 2 regular season games against the Rams in 2021, 29 of 67 for 473 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and a passer rating of 74.1. Russell Wilson against the Rams in the playoffs, 11 of 27 for 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a passer rating of 72.1. 74.1, 72.1. This is the thing. Every time Aaron Donald destroys their entire offensive line. Now, Gabe Jackson will help. He's played very well. But that's, and then and what you saw from last year was, Jalen Ramsey shut DK Metcalf down. And I said this at the time. I went back and watched all those one-on-ones. And I don't know how much Jalen's going to travel with DK this time around because they're playing him in that star/slot thing a lot.
Yeah.
But if they do what they did last year and just it's, mano a mano, and here we go. Metcalf actually beat Ramsey quite a bit, and it was Russell Wilson missing the open shots. So that's something to watch. And I wanted to get into, I was watching Seattle's offense, as I have, and it's just like explosive play after explosive play. And I just got done watching the Ali documentary, the Ken Burns, Muhammad Ali doc. It's so good. And I was reading Joe Frazier's book on boxing. And Frazier brought up in his book that there are 3, you can break it down even further, the 3 basic types of boxers. There are boxers, there are sluggers, and there are volume punchers. Sluggers want to get you on the canvas right away, and they wear out over time. You think George Foreman versus Ali in Zaire. Boxers keep you going late. They move around to avoid your punches, and they move in for the kill when it's time. They use the whole ring, and then when they can see you're getting tired, they just start attacking. And that's Ali against Foreman, roping up.
Yeah.
Volume punchers want to get inside your reach and batter you and just wear you out. That's Joe Frazier whenever, but especially against Ali, who would want to stay outside his reach. And Frazier would just say, no, I'm going to cut the ring in half. And then in quarters, I'm going to push you into the ropes. I'm just going to kick your ass. And once it worked, twice it didn't. But that's, the Seahawks are sluggers. They are George Foreman. And they have the fewest offensive plays in the NFL this season, 211, but only the Chiefs average more yards per play than Seattle's 6.6. But they're converting 33.3% of their third downs down near the bottom of the league with the Lions, Broncos, Washington, and the Bears. So basically, if their offense doesn't knock you on your ass in the first 3 rounds, it's rope-a-dope, and they don't know how to recover. I don't even want to get into their defense because we all know that's just a tire fire. And nice recovery game for Matthew Stafford after what the Cardinals did to him. But I am surprised 4 weeks in, and of course we can't see a quarter of it anymore, I get like maybe, we could compute X number of minutes into the first quarter.
Right.
Now it's the quarter,
Now it's
whatever.
the quarter
but,
mark, not the quarter pole.
I know quarter
Quarter
pole. Okay, grammar nerds. Here we go. Yeah. We had a fascinating discussion on the SMG Slack channel about this that put me to sleep, but yeah. Anyway, that's my impression of Seattle's offense. It's big hit, a lot of whiffs, and then they get tired. And if your defense is capable of coming in and doing volume punches to the body, and then they can see your gas and they just knock you the bleep out. I mean, the Rams can do that. And I think that's what the Seahawks are. They are the ultimate feast or famine offense. And I'm surprised with Shane Waldron that you have seen elements of the plan, but really you start to wonder, okay, it's not a Darrell Bevel offense or a Brian Schottenheimer offense or a Shane Waldron offense or a Pete Carroll. It's a Russell Wilson offense. And this is who he is.
Yeah. Seth Galita had made that exact point. I think last night on Twitter that, it's not those offensive coordinators. It's a Russell Wilson offense. It's catered to what he likes to do. It's catered to the splash throws, the deep crossers, some scramble drill moments, scramble drill rules. If they could put this together for an entire 4 quarters, they could be a very good football team.
The problem is like you can't slug for 15 rounds. Nobody can. Yeah. I mean, Mike Tyson was the same way. He was a slugger. He didn't have to be anything else early because he'd come in, he'd knock you the hell out in 35 seconds, and then you go home.
Be over. Yeah,
that's it.
But right now they don't have the ability to do that. It's extremely hard to sustain that over 60 minutes. And so, at some point you'll need the defense to help you out. Right now it's not, and that's where the Seahawks are right now.
And you can talk about the court. You can say it's a Ken Norton problem, going back to boxing, right. Ken Norton Jr. problem. I think Ken Norton Sr. was more of a boxer. He would, move around then volume punch. But anyway, you can talk about the scheme all you want. When you throw darts at a dartboard at the cornerback position for 2 straight years, I don't know what else you expect. This was a badly thought out. Cornerback to me is the second most important position in the league right now. And you can't just, what the hell it, you can't do that. Or your defense is going to suck.
Yeah, that's why I had the Seahawks on my landing spots for a Stephon Gilmore piece before the Panthers came in, because it's an issue for them. Cornerback is an issue, and I thought he would have made a lot of sense there. He could have helped there immediately, but he's now in Carolina, and the Patriots get to see him in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Sidney Jones, another revenge game for the Patriots. Goody.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to get the Adele promo that the Brady game got, though.
Probably not. Well, he's on PUP, so he can come back. It's week 7, I think, against the Giants.
Yep.
And
then I think week 9 is New England, something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my thought. When I'm in the press box, I'll be about volume punchers and stuff like that. So yeah. Here's my Zach Wilson stat. We know that pre-snap motion is a cheat code for most quarterbacks, right?
Affirmed. Zach
Wilson with pre-snap motion this year, no touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
That's interesting.
That is, I went back through all the seasons. I think it was 2015 with Sports Info Solutions database where they have motion. There is nothing even remotely close to that. Like, Jared Goff last year had something like 8 touchdowns and 8 picks with pre-snap motion, but at least he had 8 touchdowns. In a concept that's supposed to give you, okay, and Zach's a rookie, so he's going to need this is man, this is zone. This tells me, this guy's over here. Mike LaFleur's pretty good, I would think, at eliminating certain defenders and creating matchups with motion, because there's motion to indicate motion to, disrupt and all that. You've watched Zach Wilson more than I have. Why do you think that might be possibly true? Because it's true. It's the stat. You can look at it and go, okay, that's what it is. But what the hell?
Yeah, I think like what are the? I pulled up his interceptions right now, so I'm kind of like watching them out of the side of my eye. Like, what are the interceptions he threw? It was the first one against Denver, the Justin Simmons one. We actually talked about this last week when we talked about Wilson. There's pre-snap motion there. Wilson had sped himself up in the pocket. And all the pre-snap motion, all the stuff that you can do to inform a quarterback to give him a better indicator of what the coverage is.
Play action too, which is supposed to be the other cheat code. It's like the Panthers thing with Sam Darnold, where they're giving him both. Well, they're giving Zach Wilson both.
Yeah.
This isn't on the guys on the sideline. This is on
Right.
the kid.
Yeah, and it's between the ears because you can give the quarterback all this stuff to help him, but if he's doing things to his own detriment, such as like on this play, speeding himself up in the pocket, cutting his drop short, staring down his intended target because he has information and he knows this is where he wants to go with the football, a good player in the secondary is going to take advantage of that. And so it's now on the quarterback to, okay, I've got this information and I might feel a little bit uncomfortable about the protection in front of me and around me, and I might want to speed things up. But since I know this is where I want to go, my eyes go elsewhere first. My eyes go middle of the field. My eyes go backside. My eyes go elsewhere first because I know I've got the information. I've got the answers to the test. Now he has to sort of pair that with better use of his eyes. I think, the coaches have at times done a good job for him, give them that information, but he hasn't quite taken full advantage of it.
So whereas like Justin Fields, and we'll get obviously there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
And he golf clap for Matt Nagy for figuring out what we all knew. Justin Fields on one of his 4 deep throws manipulated the safety over. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
With Wilson, is it that it's not only that he's not using eye discipline, to the Jaworski quote, eye discipline. It's that he's not doing that, but moreover, defenders are getting the tell from his eyes. Is that kind of what's going on?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, particularly that Simmons interception, that's exactly it, because you can see, early in that play, Simmons is just driving on it. Like, when Wilson hits his depth in the pocket and he's again cut it short, which is throwing off the timing of it, Simmons from a deep alignment, he's like 8 yards over this receiver that Wilson is targeting. He's already driving on the throw. Like before even the hands separate, he's driving on the throw. And so, yeah, I mean, corners and safeties have, I think at times, figured out Zach Wilson.
Which, yeah, that's a problem.
Now, at the same time, look, Wilson made some great throws in that Tennessee game. They were splashy, scramble drill. It's against Tennessee. The throw he had in overtime, I thought was great. It was from the pocket. The defender in man coverage couldn't get lined up. Like he's in the middle of the field and they've got a 3 receiver bunch to the left. The guy he's supposed to cover is running an out route. I mean, Wilson did a good job on that play of taking advantage of the situation, but he's got to get better with his eyes.
At a certain point, he's going to have to be more boring and let the game slow down. We talked about Zach Wilson last week. I said, to me, it's like one of those things with quarterbacks who are not in sync. They're playing too fast and too slow at the same time.
Yeah.
It's too fast in their head, so it's too slow with the body. And you can see that with him. That's kind of where it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Packers at Bengals. Packers signed Jalen Smith. Maybe he can play at an above average level. And Devondre Campbell, by the way, he's been playing really well for the Packers. So, Packers could have 2 good linebackers for the first time since Vince Lombardi, maybe. Yeah. They had to move Clay Matthews inside years ago just because they couldn't figure that position out. So good for them. Not good for them. Jair Alexander is out with the sprained AC joint in his shoulder, could be out for a long time. And advice to the Packers: don't play cover 0 against Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
You know why? Because he'll check out of it.
And apparently Joe Burrow is one of those people that he's like going to do his homework, right? Because that check to the jailbreak screen to CJ Uzmanada, he knew it was because their defensive coordinator had Baltimore roots and played a lot of 0, which tipped the hat.
He did a check against the Vikings. I think it was week 1 earlier in the season. When I was doing research for the story I wrote on Burrow's check, he did something similar against the Vikings.
That was the 4th down play in overtime.
Yeah.
Where they had a run called and he saw that look and he's just like, you know what? I'm going to throw the football here. And freedom to coaches giving a second-year quarterback freedom to do that. That's huge.
Yeah. Second year where he missed half of his rookie season, and this is his first really off season, of course, because so very impressive there. Jair Alexander's out. Now they had sort of started, he's an outside corner, obviously. They had started to move him inside. Joe Burrow wants to play the star. And I'll say the Packers defense has become a lot less vulnerable. They're actually using stunts. I think they've made the coverage issues, the checks less complicated. I think Joe Barry under-complicated the fronts and over-complicated the coverages early on. I think that's working itself out. But when you have no Jair Alexander for several weeks, it sounds like that's bad, because he is the one guy in that secondary that you can trust on every down.
Yeah. And I saw that surgery hasn't been ruled out yet.
And if he has surgery,
and if he gets surgery, it's over.
That's another team that was in the running for Gilmore.
Yep.
Lions at Vikings. I will say the other side of Justin Fields' big game against the Lions is that the Lions defense, man, they just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And Kirk Cousins is playing very well. This could get ugly for Detroit. I have nothing to add.
Yeah. I mean, I think I actually picked Detroit at least to cover. But that probably tells you
the spread.
I think it's 8.5. I mean,
Mm.
but the way my picks are going this year, Doug, that probably means Minnesota wins by 20. So
that would be my first instinct. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, I'm struggling right now, so I'm just taking some swings.
No,
I'm the puncher at this point.
You're the volume puncher.
I'm the volume puncher right now. I'm just taking some wild swings.
Yeah. So you're a volume puncher in theory. You're a slugger in practice.
I think that's exactly right.
So you're Seattle's offense right now.
Seattle's offense right now.
High big play rate, very low conversion rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not a lot of plays. Ouch.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't do that.
Maybe don't do that.
Broncos at Steelers. So the Vic Fangio Baltimore thing, I'll just say this. They continue their record of 100-yard games. Baltimore does, with the Lamar Jackson run late. Last play of the game, Vic Fangio comes out and says, "Oh, this is the kind of crap Baltimore does. They don't care about player safety." Vic, love you, but on your last drive, with Teddy Bridgewater already in the concussion protocol, you called 3 timeouts so Drew Lock could throw 3 deep passes when you were down 23-7. So shut up.
Yeah, that's what Harbaugh said. He's like, they'll throw it in the end zone. I didn't realize there was a 16-point play like MTV Rock'em Jock'em softball.
What would a 16-point play look like?
Off the scoreboard,
off the scoreboard,
off the upright,
off the
crossbar,
into the receiver's hand.
Yeah. Nothing but catch. Yeah.
I immediately think Mahomes is going to do that.
He probably could. They need to do that. Remember the Jordan Bird McDonald's commercial where they were playing horse? They need to do that with like Mahomes and Rodgers or something. That could be
like it.
McDonald's just send us the residuals for that one.
Yeah. Send us some McRibs.
Yeah, that too.
Broncos at Steelers. I have only one thing to say about Pittsburgh's offense. Never run the flat pass to Najee Harris behind the line of scrimmage on 4th down ever again. Don't do it anymore. They tried it against the Bengals. It didn't work. They tried it against the Packers. It didn't work. Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger tried to explain that they want to run these when defenders are playing a picket fence against them.
Right.
And when I read that, I thought, like you say something or you hear something and a word gets stuck in your head and you start to spin it into other words and other ideas, and then something else gets stuck in your head.
Yep.
When Mike Tomlin says picket fence, he's like, Pickett. Ooh, Kenny Pickett. Hey, Matt Canada, how would Kenny Pickett look on our offense next year? Because our quarterback is cooked.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about Ben. Ben has been a sort of thing dating back to like last season. But yeah, I mean, could Kenny Pickett be the first quarterback off the board? I don't know. I mean, I'm warming up to the idea, and he certainly played at a very high level this season. I mean, he has more touchdowns than like I saw a stat today than like 6 different quarterbacks that we thought were going to be good combined.
Is he this year's Joe Burrow?
I wrote
so
2
out
weeks
of nowhere,
ago,
or because you know more about draft quarterbacks than I do. Was he like a thing last year, or is it this year?
No, I wrote 2 weeks ago that he might be having a Mac Jones kind of rise, where this was a guy that we weren't sure about. Now he might play his way into the middle of the first round, but that's right now. Like you look down the road, and I'm pulling up his schedule now. If he continues to play at this level, like they've got Virginia Tech this week on the road, and then October 20. Actually, no, that's in 2 weeks, and then Clemson, Miami, and then the showdown one, the resume game could be November 11th that night, because they play UNC at home. And if he plays better than Sam Howell in that game,
which is because you never know which Sam Howell's going to show
right.
up.
I mean, forget the Mac Jones rise. We could be talking about the Joe Burrow rise. Yeah. And Matt Corral, he had an opportunity for that resume game against Alabama. It didn't quite happen.
That was rough.
Did not quite happen.
I did not, it was Alabama, so I did not have my popcorn ready, Coach Kiffin, but ouch.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys I want to like, but I just can't buy in. It's like he's got everything you want to like in a quarterback, but it's just not. So speaking of schedules, the Steelers are 1-3. They have the Broncos, then they have the Seahawks, then a bye, then the Browns, the Bears, the Lions, Chargers, and then the whole AFC North, war of attrition shows up. So they can be picking top 10. That
could be,
because what did I say before the season? And I said it like every week when we talk about the Steelers. Any defensive regression, the offense can't pick it up, and that's what's happening. So that's how you wind up. I don't think Mike Tomlin's ever had a losing record. I think that could change this year.
That could change. And, his endorsement that Ben Roethlisberger is the best quarterback for us right now, I think that was more of we don't have any other option.
You have Dwayne Haskins.
You have Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph.
Yeah. At least the duck guy was more interesting because he was a duck.
Yeah.
That's a problem there. Let's see. Dolphins at Buccaneers. There was a column by Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald this week, which it was revealed that the Dolphins really don't have a plan on offense. They have two actual offensive coordinators, Eric Studeville and George Godsey. Studeville on the two coordinator thing this week. It's more execution and doing things of what we're calling a collaborative effort. Has been good with us putting ideas together and formulating what we want to do. We just got to execute it better. They're talking about, should we put in more plays where Devontae Parker can gain separation? Yeah, that'd probably be a good idea. Do we want to create more, big plays for our quarterback? That would probably be a good idea. I don't see a plan here. I don't see an identity.
Line about quarterbacks. What's the old line about quarterbacks? If you have two, you really have none.
Yeah.
I think you could say the same about offensive coordinators.
If you have five offensive coordinators, you have none.
Yeah. And that's where they're at right now. Jacoby Brissett, he's had opportunities to make throws downfield, and he hasn't felt comfortable making those throws. And he said during this week that he's still trying to figure out what he can and can't do. And Kyle Krabs, we love him, pointed out that, look, if you're at this point in your career and you're still trying to figure that out, then there's probably a big problem.
Well, if you give Jacoby 5 minutes to figure it out, he's going to need 10. If you need him to figure something out in 2 seconds in the pocket, it's going to take him 6. I'm not disputing his intelligence. I'm saying the processing speed has never been there. And that's two different things.
Yeah.
I favor myself a fairly smart person. If I had to figure something out in 2 seconds in the pocket, I'd wet my pants and run off the field.
Yeah.
It is a hard thing to do. But that's kind of where
that's the job.
One thing about Richard Sherman, and this goes into Sidney Jones in Seattle and Stephon Gilmore in Carolina. He did not play well. He had 3 days with the team. I think he had 2 practices. Hasn't played since last season. And Collinsworth brought this up on the broadcast. I think it was a really good point that, the Buccaneers have played a lot of cover 2, cover 3 this year. So you think, oh, Sherm, cover 2, cover 3 his whole career. That's a natural fit. Well, it's not, because in San Francisco, maybe they say, okay, this is zone all the way. You're going to have Jaquiski Tart up top help in, anything past 10 yards. And Todd Bowles may say, I'm not saying this is what it is. It's just an example. Todd Bowles may say, okay, we're running, 3 robber here. So Winfield's going to check down. So anything up the seam, you have no help. You have to match the stem. So even if it's cover 2, it's not always the same cover 2. I think Sherman will be fine, but it did really illustrate, and they're desperate at corner. They still are. They have nobody. That's one of those things where you give it a few weeks. I think Sherman will be fine. I think Sidney Jones will be better, but I thought it was a great point that just because the coverage is the same in the SIS database doesn't mean it's the same on the field.
Right. And, he was a podcaster 5 days before having to play 98% of the snaps.
Yeah.
I think Sherman's going to be okay. I think right now they're in a tough situation with the cornerback spot, but he'll be okay.
I've known Sherman since his rookie year. I wouldn't say we're friends, but we know each other pretty well. He sounded confident, but not in like a covering up the fact that he can't do it anymore kind of way. Like he was just calm. It was like, I can do this. Whoever signed, it was before they signed him. He says, whoever signs me, I can do this. So I think he can. I thought he showed good movement skills on the field. It's just, you can't throw a guy, it's already going at 10,000 miles an hour and you're okay, go drive this. And it's tough.
Yeah.
Speaking of tough and defense, Saints at Washington. Washington has the third worst EPA per play allowed on defense. They're sixth worst in positive play rate allowed. They've played man on 57 passing attempts, fifth highest in the league. And in man, don't play man if you can't play man. Yeah. They've allowed 33 completions for 420 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I was listening to Coach Vass on a Washington podcast this week, and he said that this is a situation where the game has passed your defensive coordinator by. And Vass knows a lot more about defense than I do. But I was reminded of talking with Cody Alexander 3 years ago for the match coverage series. And I've told the story before. He told me that he got to sit in on a Broncos install when he was a grad assistant at Baylor, and Jack Del Rio was a defensive coordinator in Denver. And John Fox and Jack Del Rio were trying to figure out basic high school install against Robert Griffin in the zone read.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the problem. I will say that I watched tape this week with Matt Ryan, and he had 3 deep passing attempts in the first 3 weeks of the season with no completions. He had 6 deep attempts with 2 completions against Washington. And I asked him why the decision was to turn it loose all of a sudden. Was it like you're getting comfortable with Arthur Smith or Cordero Patterson is this and that, or was it just what you saw? And he said it was the looks we had. Like we looked at Washington's defense and went, holy shit, we can just throw it all over the field. I mean, until the last part of the game, which was, another example of falconing. Yeah. That's what they did. So when the quarterback on the NFL's worst offense by DVOA is looking at your defense and looking at his chops, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Washington, we all thought, for one, thought that Washington was going to be great because of their defense, and that's not happening right now. And Vass, who obviously, like you said, knows more about defense than me, made a great point about how maybe, the scheme is not good enough for today's NFL. Now, I do think that, there are some issues with not getting the kind of pressure that they thought on a consistent basis, although I think they were a little bit better, particularly at the end of the game.
But they're getting a lot of pressures, but they're not getting home. Yeah. And when you have coverage that bad on the back end, you have to get home.
Yeah. Again, it's the idea of, you need both pass rush and coverage, and they don't have it right now.
Tying pass rush to coverage. Yes. It's funny how whenever I see a defense ascend and then I go into the weeds to do a tape piece on them, this happened with at some point I'll find an article or a transcript where the defensive coordinator says, oh yeah, the most important thing is to tie pressure to coverage.
Yeah. It
was the Rams last year. It was the Panthers early this year. It's now the Cardinals. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. Any thoughts on Taylor Heinecke against the Saints defense? Because the Saints defense is still, quite good.
Yeah, I mean,
or just Taylor Heinecke in general, because I did not get a chance to watch him. I have not for a couple of weeks.
I mean, he made some impressive throws in the second half of that game. He's still a very high variance quarterback. He's going to make some mistakes, and I think that Saints defense is going to punish him for some of those mistakes more than, say, what we saw from Atlanta last weekend. But there's something about Heinecke that I just enjoy watching. And I think there's an opportunity for him to also make some plays. And I think there's an opportunity for him to hit on some stuff downfield, even though he's not known for having this incredible arm. He made some throws with trash at his feet in that game against Atlanta, where, you had to put it downfield and all it is his upper body. And he used some torque to generate enough velocity and RPMs on those throws to make him. So, I think he'll make some plays against this team. It's just the bigger questions in Washington, not what we expected. We expected quarterback to be the big question, but right now defense is the big question.
Yeah. They still have, I think they have, Antonio Gibson. They have him healthy, I believe. Terry McLaurin is still just clowning everyone he faces. That guy, he's the top 5 receiver we're not talking about.
Yeah.
Although DJ Moore is also coming close. So yikes. I gave the William Jackson signing an A+. I'd say, okay, they were like the 3rd best defense in DVOA last year. Well, Del Rio was a defensive coordinator last year. The only thing I can think is they played a ton of zone last year. They're playing a ton of man this year, and something is not. Maybe Del Rio can't call man and needs to go back to whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Speaking of man and zone, Eagles at Panthers, and it's not, as we said, it's not relative to this particular game. I will say that last year, his first season as a Panthers DC, Phil Snow played the second most zone on all downs and the third most zone on passing downs. And as it turned out, that wasn't a choice. It was a necessity because he just didn't have the guys he wanted. Well, what do? They take JC Horn in the first round. What is JC Horn? Aggressive man-based corner. They trade for CJ Henderson when JC Horn gets hurt. What is CJ Henderson? Back to his days at Florida. Same thing. They trade for Gilmore. Now, Gilmore, and I saw this stuff about why did the Panthers take him? Because he can't play zone. Not true. And we'll get into the numbers there. Gilmore, when he was the defensive player of the year in 2019, he played man better than anyone else, played zone top 5, played slot top 5. So when he's healthy, he can do everything. So I think I won't get into all the numbers, but basically the Panthers are playing a bit more man this year. I think Snow wants to be extremely multiple and aggressive with his fronts and play, I would say, match behind it, not man or zone, but match. And I don't know what Horn's situation is with the broken bones in his foot, whether he'll be back on the field this year or not. But think of a 3 cornerback rotation with JC Horn, CJ Henderson, and Stephon Gilmore. Those are 3 alphas who want to just obliterate you on your routes. And with those fronts and all the stuff they do and the multiple position guys, everyone from Morgan Fox to Jeremy Chin, I mean, holy crap. This could be something else. Not this week, a fantastic not this month, but this season. And if they get Gilmore on a longer deal and he kind of becomes what Uncle Sherman in San Francisco, what Richard Sherman did, where he's kind of telling everyone, okay, I've seen everything, I can show you the way forward.
Yeah, this could be a very good defense a month from now, 2 months from now down the road. Absolutely. I love this move for Carolina. I think Gilmore could do anything you ask of him from a coverage standpoint, whether it's man, zone, man match, zone match. Like, yeah, I absolutely love it. And you've got now, like you said, the Uncle Sherman role where he can be sort of that like mentor to these 2 young corners. And it's a young defense generally, like having a player like that's had, the experience that Gilmore has had, that's played in the big games that Gilmore has played in. Yeah, this was a fantastic move for Carolina.
I will say that the one thing the Panthers should not do, and probably no one else should do, don't play man against Dak Prescott. 3 of his touchdowns against him, and those guys just didn't know what they were doing. That was and Dak is playing at a level
Dak's playing extremely well.
Talk about processing. He's seeing it as well as any quarterback I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, he's playing fantastic. And that offense is great. That Dallas defense is good.
We're going to talk about that. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Back to Eagles at Panthers. Jalen Hurts. I know you did the QB Factory reboot, and I kind of lean on you for Hurts stuff. I wanted to watch some of it because I didn't want to get too behind the 8 ball with it. A couple of big games in a row, but even against the Chiefs, who have like the worst defense in the NFL right now, he's still missing open shots. There's this 3rd and 8. I know you've done the play I'm talking about. The 3rd and 8 early in the game where he ran around as if he was a little kid trying to make himself dizzy. And then he ran out of bounds short of the sticks. And he had stuff open downfield. And I'm like, what are you? And then he'll make 3 plays in a row where you're like, yeah, he's the franchise guy. And then there's 1 or 2 where you're thinking, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was better than he was obviously against Dallas. And a lot of that might be the difference between the 2 defenses. I thought Nick Sirianni's opening game script was good.
Well, he had one this time.
Yeah.
That helps.
I do think it's important with Hurts. It's his 8th start in the NFL. It's his 3rd offensive system in 3 years, dating back to Oklahoma.
And both as a passer and a runner, he is setting yardage marks that are historic. So I'm not saying he sucks.
No,
I'm saying that he's making a lot of great plays, and
there's room to improve.
He's, I mean, really at a rudimentary level sometimes, and I don't know what it is. I'd like to study it more and go, okay, it's this or that thing. Maybe based on your study. there are things about NFL defenses that just completely vaporize his brain.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to look at it deeper to figure out the answer to that. But, there are just moments where, and it might be just the athletic quarterback conundrum, where if you're not completely comfortable, you've been able to make something happen with your legs almost every other time you've tried it. So you try it again, and that might work on Saturdays against Texas. It might not work on Sundays against even a Kansas City defense that has been struggling, because the athletes are just that much better. And when you think you can escape and extend, suddenly you can't. And now you're doing the roadrunner thing in the pocket.
Yep. Meet.
Yep.
Titans at Jaguars. I have no doubt that Trevor Lawrence will put the Titans pass defense on a spit, because everyone does. And before we get into the obvious story, I think what I've seen from Lawrence so far, he has the biggest case of horse balls I've seen on a rookie quarterback since Andrew Luck in 2012. And what I mean by that is, when Luck came in and Bruce Arians was the offensive coordinator, they threw the entire playbook right at his head at 100 miles an hour and said, all right, we're giving you the entire structure. We're giving you the entire vertical passing game. And we're giving it to you from week one. And there was no ramp up. And Luck handled it at a molecular level. And what I'm seeing from Lawrence, it's a very limited route. It's gotten better, but it's Bevel and Schottenheimer. It's kind of what they are. But the throws he's making, the throws he made against the Bengals downfield, there was the sideline throw. It's very, and I'm kind of waiting around for the lightning when I say this. There's some very Aaron Rodgers stuff to his ability to, both in the pocket and on the run, make downfield perfect timing, window this big stick throws that you just don't usually. It's unusual for a quarterback at any level, for a guy to come in as a rookie and this absolute disaster of a franchise as it is. And when I was interviewing Matt Ryan this week, he of course was the Falcons' first draft pick after the Bobby Petrino thing. And I asked him, pursuant to this, did you see any of that dysfunction when you came into the building? And he said, it may have been there. I was just too naive to know at that time what it may or may not have been. I'm just hoping the same thing for Lawrence, because God, he's special. He's doing stuff that most of the quarterbacks in the NFL can't do, and he's doing it this early. So I wanted a little football thing. And I mean, you played up to Division III college football. You've had a lot of coaches. And I will say, I mean, you're a Patriots fan, so you've been studying Belichick for 20 years. Best coach, maybe of any, certainly best football coach I've ever seen, maybe the best coach in any sport. But Belichick, and certainly not intentionally, has caused his team no shortage of distractions over the years. And that goes back to retiring as the HC of the NYJ and whatever. But when you have Urban Meyer, who, I mean, they should have known. There was the racist strength coach that he apparently vetted and then had to fire. There was the Tim Tebow clown show. There was the violating Josh Allen's HIPAA when he was trying to talk about vaccinated players. And I mean, all along this has been, I remember talking to Pete Carroll it's halfway through his first year with Seattle. So we were all a little bit like, we're not sure. And I asked Pete in kind of a direct fashion, it's like, why should we believe you're different? And he said the year between the Patriots and SC, he wrote a column for NFL.com. He did some TV work, but he read a bunch of John Wooden books and kind of got his head straight about, okay, this is what is required of me. I have to take this more seriously. I have to be more of a presence. And that worked at SC. Turns out, hey, worked pretty well in Seattle. I don't think Urban Meyer understands what the position requires. I think he's been Saint Urban for so long in the face of some really questionable to disgusting decisions throughout his career. For some reason, we just want to ignore it. We want to put him on TV as an analyst. Urban is untouchable. I don't know why, but some guys are. Find yourself a protective substance like the Teflon around Urban Meyer. So I'm not really good at being told what to do, as you know. You've played for coaches. How do you see this?
I mean, I've said this week on a couple different shows that whatever the over under is on Meyer's tenure with the Jacksonville Jaguars, you hammer that under, because I don't think this is a sustainable proposition. This is not Columbus, where you are a god, where you have the belief that you can walk into a bar that is yours, where your picture, along with a picture of your wife, is plastered on the walls and behave.
How do you get in trouble? I was thinking, somebody asked, how do you get in trouble in your own? I think it was Spencer Hall. How do you get in trouble in your own restaurant? I was thinking of casino.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah. I mean, it's the NFL is a different thing. The NFL is a different beast. In college, that will get swept under the rug and nobody will care. But now you're the head coach of an NFL team. And Amy Trask, she had a fantastic piece on the other sort of inconsistencies and departures from the norm of just not traveling back with the team. Like, and
after an absolutely soul crushing loss.
Yeah.
And now they're 0-4. That to me looks like our coach is giving up on us.
Yeah.
They played the best game of their season. Yeah. They almost won that game. Those kids are heartbroken, and you don't have the understanding in your big, dumb, stupid head to get your ass. People have made this point through the week. You're Urban Meyer. You just signed you got all the money in the world. Shad Khan's, I'm sure, got a private plane. If you want to go back with the team and then fly your ass back on a long week and do whatever you want to do in your own, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And so
it's a joke.
And then the way he sort of mishandled it out of the gate at the start of this week, right? Where he didn't address the team, and then he's doing it piecemeal. And then he has this thing where, I always try to do these by position groups. When you're installing game plans, sure. But you got to stand up. Well,
now he's saying it's really on the players to provide leadership.
No, this is on you.
Urban Meyer
is an Urban Meyer problem that Urban Meyer created. You have to be a leader here, and he's not.
He's not capable of it. He never has been. It's just, you should have known. Well, my thought was, and when the Huskies hired Tyrone Willingham, and they had all this lack of discipline before, and Tyrone came in and he was all about deportment, and players must act a certain way. And they went 0-12 that year, like the worst college football team I've ever seen. The Huskies overcorrected. I think maybe after Tom Coughlin going, full grumpy old man Clint Eastwood, get the hell off my lawn, and he basically destroyed the best defense in the NFL in 2 or 3 seasons. Maybe the Jaguars overcorrected from, nasty Uncle Tom Coughlin to this guy who, we know he's a little loosey-goosey and maybe he doesn't have the best judgment, but he's a great coach and he can relate to whoever. If I'm Shad Khan, I eat the money and just
I think so.
Now, Darrell Bevel, I believe he was an interim coach a couple of years back, I think with the Lions. He's the only person on that coaching staff with any head coaching experience in the NFL. Just saying.
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe Urban set it up that way. Maybe Urban is doing all this to get fired. Maybe
there are people
maybe
that have
he
speculated
knows,
that
okay,
already.
the NFL is too hard.
Yeah.
The NFL Network had a whole top 10 on it. And I have said, take Pete Carroll out of there, take John McKay out of there, really, and just put Urban in there twice.
Yep.
We'll see if anyone ever makes that mistake again. Of course they will. Patriots at Texans. I don't have anything to say about the Texans. I just feel sorry for Davis Mills.
Yeah.
A couple things about the Patriots. They had a really interesting defensive strategy against the Buccaneers, and it showed up early to me, even on the broadcast angle. They were going to play heavy man, vary their fronts. And they did different things in coverage. From what I saw, their coverage is pretty good. They were going to man up. They were going to, guy on a guy all the way over, and it worked. And this looked to me like, okay, this is the resuscitation of the 2019 Patriots defense, where the fronts looked like a petri dish and you knew exactly what you're going to get in the secondary. I want to get your thoughts on that, because when they did that in 2019, they had the personnel. And of course, they just traded Gilmore out, and he hadn't played this year anyway. But they have guys stepping up. To me, this looks like the biggest take I got of that, besides the fact that Matthew Judon is the team MVP after 4 weeks. This is the defense, the Belichicks, I will say. Sorry, Steve, for all the memes you got, but
right.
Are those signals with the?
I don't think so.
Yeah. But this to me is the defense they want to play. And now they have the personnel to do it after all the opt-outs and the whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they're fairly comfortable on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, I think a lot of people, when the Gilmore news came out, it was like, well, this probably shouldn't have surprised us, because after what we saw Sunday night, they probably feel really comfortable with what they have in the secondary. They feel comfortable with what they have up front. I mean, the defense played well against Tom Brady. I mean, if you would have told Patriot fans going in, Brady and the offense in Tampa Bay would have one touchdown and set up for field goals and be 1 of 4 down in the red zone, like, you would have taken that. The question in New England is just Mac Jones and his development.
Yeah.
And I think Mac played
just the
not
one crap
great.
pass Tampa Bay had where Matthew Judon pushed
Just
Donovan
destroyed,
Smith into Ronald Jones.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mac Jones, he's on the Chad Pennington plan, and that's okay for now.
Yeah.
1 of 11 deep passes for 27 yards and a pick against the Saints in week 3. Against the Buccaneers, he attempted 1 pass of 20 or more yards, and it was intercepted. So it's like, okay, we're going to bring this way back. And, you tell me, is this short-term, long-term? Like, where do you think they are with Mac Jones? I know they're happy with him. And he made, I wrote a piece, okay, they lost, but the kid looked really good. And people were giving me pushback, like, well, he didn't do anything deep. Like, well, maybe he's not seeing that right now.
Yeah. I mean, like, ADOT, right? Average depth of target. That's like the big phrase on every Patriots fan's mind right now. It's like, he's not pushing the ball downfield. And are there opportunities for him to do that? Absolutely. And sometimes he made those throws, sometimes he didn't. And, that's part of the balancing act of a young quarterback, like the Zach Wilson phrase from preseason, right? What you can and cannot get away with as a quarterback. And, I think the interception he threw, that was the one vertical pass, deep pass that he had. Defender made a great play.
Yep.
It was the right read. And I think this is a short-term problem, not a long-term problem with Mac Jones. I think over time, he'll learn to sort of attack some windows when he can. I think the arm strength is going to get better over time. He has I'd say an NFL average arm. Like, I don't think it's great, but it could get better over time.
And the shot plays at Alabama were mostly his receivers just demolishing coverage.
That's the other thing. Like, he's not throwing to Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith right now. Yeah. So it will take some time.
They don't have anyone who can separate like that.
No, not the way those guys can. Absolutely not.
So the windows are going to be,
tighter.
tight windows,
and with a rookie quarterback that has, the one thing with New England was there was an expectation that the offensive line was going to be fantastic in front of it. It hasn't been. Nope. It hasn't been a good offensive line. And, they're struggling at the right tackle spot right now with Trent Brown being injured. And Mac Jones has had to move around in the pocket a little bit more. And
they blitzed him a shit ton.
Yeah.
On Sunday.
Off the right side. And they influenced him on the interception that he had. I mean, he had 2 free runners at him.
Yeah.
So
is that bad?
That's not great.
That's not great. Bears at Raiders. There are 3 things I want abolished from the NFL immediately. There's the 4th down behind the line of scrimmage flat pass to Najee Harris. There is the Eagles inverted cover 2. And there's whatever country cover 3 the Raiders and the Seahawks are barfing out on any given week. Well, here comes Justin Fields, who against country cover 3 is probably going to be pretty good. But the difference between, I did a long tape piece on this week because I had excoriated Matt Nagy the week before, and Matt they're hammering stuff into the concrete head, and it's starting to work. He's going to be the starter going forward, but hopefully, because the difference with Matt Nagy as his play caller, disaster. With Bill Lazor as his play caller, one step beyond night and day. Lazor gave Fields everything he needed to play winning football at the position. There are 3-level route combinations to stress the defense. Fields took advantage of them, reduced splits to spread the passing game out horizontally, as Sean McVay would do, and other teams are catching on. Far more play action and motion, respecting Fields as a run threat, keeping extra men in for protection, and still getting separation on 2-man route concepts because the separation was so good. So now you get the Raiders with that secondary, their spot drop cover 3 bull crap. And Fields on deep passes against the Lions, 4 of 6 for 151 yards. He hasn't thrown a touchdown yet, and he had a pick off a deflected pass at the line, but he did everything else. Getting to his second and third reads, looking the safeties off. It was a game plan that made him comfortable, and he could show everything he could do. And, I wrote, if they go back to Andy Dalton at this point, I just don't know, apparently or not, but it was like, oh gosh, here's all the things Justin Fields can really do.
Yeah. And, I think part of what we also saw was the vertical elements to that passing offense meshed a lot better. And we talked about this, I believe, last week with the Ryan Day playbook, the Ryan Day offense that he was running at Ohio State, where, you might have in that offense, that Ohio State offense, routes that convert, 10 yards downfield, whether post, go, corner, comeback, something like that. That's going to help him, A, run stuff that he's familiar with, and B, Chris Carter talked about it, like it's a longer development play, so he can anticipate those throws a little bit better. When it's the Matt Nagy slant flat, curl flat, quick game kind of stuff, things have to happen in an instant. And for a young quarterback with Fields' background, not that Fields can't run that, it's that he's used to doing other stuff, and he's a rookie quarterback like we just talked about with Mac Jones, where the game is so much faster for him now. That wasn't the best mesh for him from a playbook to scheme to talent to trait standpoint. This deeper stuff, that's where he needs to be right now. And so the Lazor deserves a ton of credit for that game plan.
Well, and the deeper stuff wasn't Matt Nagy's, boundary vert crap with the 3-yard stop routes underneath. This was, motion to levels. This was, maybe an over post combo with 2 receivers and you keep your tight ends in. It was, it was much better. And I hope it continues for him because, okay, so Matt Nagy's your coach. For some reason you want to keep him. You put him on the Mike McCarthy plan. You let someone run the offense, someone on the defense, and he's just there to eat sandwiches. Fine. Yeah. Whatever. It's not my money. So. Yep. Moving on, Browns at Chargers, one of the more interesting games of the week. And I'm going to hand it over to you because you wrote a great piece on Baker Mayfield. What are your conclusions about Baker at this point? Well, before we went on air, I said, is he starting to look like a Jared Goff, which would surprise me because I thought when he came into the league, he had a lot more on the ball as far as just physical tools than Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff is just he's one of those, it's like Garoppolo. There's just the ceiling is right here and you're going to bang your head on it. What are you seeing from Baker?
Well, and I think a lot of it might just be due to the injury, right? Yeah, because it came out this morning after I wrote this piece, that he has a, partial tear of the labrum in his non-throwing shoulder. That can be a big reason why Baker has not played well the past couple of weeks since he heard that game and heard it in that week 2 game against Houston, because Baker dated back to his days at Oklahoma. I was always what I like to say, a torquey thrower of the football. He uses his upper body to generate a ton of torque on throws in his throw in motion to get velocity on throws. But when you have that injury, the last thing you sometimes want to do is rip through the throw in motion with that front shoulder. And so you might be more hesitant with that. You might not be as violent, as whippy, as torquey with that. And when you start adjusting mechanical throw in motion movements on the fly like he is, it's going to lead to some misses. And so ultimately he might still be sort of Mahomes light. Ultimately, he might be the guy you would probably give the extension to. Ultimately, that's probably where I would probably come down on this anyway. The problem is Baker, the Baker we're seeing right now that's sort of hesitant and missing on throws, is that who he is or not? Because if it is, then the Browns have a more difficult decision. If the guy we're seeing right now, it's just the injury, then okay, you probably go and extend him, because the idea of sort of resetting your time and your clock at the quarterback position probably isn't appealing. But I just don't think that it's an immediate cut and dry hand in the big check. Like, some team eventually is going to say, look, we use this offensive system to prop up a young quarterback. He's good in it, but he's not great. So why not just reset the clock? Cleveland's probably good enough where they could say, given what we have around him, we can pay him and we'll just roll this forward. Eventually, some team's going to go in the other direction.
Like the Rams should have done with Jared Goff.
Right.
They gave him all the money and then, whoops. And then they got Matthew Stafford, and of course, much better. But you consider everything they had to give up to do that. It's the thing. Well, they're the 3rd youngest team in the league. They're already competitive. Yeah, it's not like their window is just opening up, and they've got a brilliant front office. I think Stefanski's a great coach. Their defense is worlds better than it was last year. Yeah, it's an interesting. I hope it's just a shoulder because
I hope so too. Because look,
I was looking at the examples of the plays you showed in your article, and I'm like, that does. I think because it doesn't look like him, and the missing Odell by 10 yards. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that I picked in the Browns to get to the Super Bowl. This is a quarterback at Baker that I think I had like 11 overall. When I did my top 15 quarterbacks.
Oh well, it's just the Mark. This is just the Mark Schofield curse.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
That's all it is.
That's all this is. Because look, I still look. Baker is the kind of quarterback. I said this when he was coming out. He doesn't want to just beat you. He wants to like end you. He wants to finish you. And I absolutely love and adore that about a quarterback. And so I'm praying that like it is just the shoulder, and the guy we've seen the past couple of weeks is not Baker Mayfield. That we see Baker start ripping throws again, and the decision is easy. But if it's not, if the guy we saw missing those throws against Minnesota is who Baker Mayfield is overall, and he can't make those 3 to 5 throws a game that differentiate you between being a great quarterback and a good quarterback, is that a guy you give the big money extension to? Is that the money that this front office would give the big money extension to?
Well, back to the boxing analogy, should he be a volume puncher and a boxer, and he thinks he's George Foreman or Mike Tyson? I'm gonna, here come my haymakers, and you don't really have that. That's not who you are.
Yeah.
You need to strike consistent blows instead of thinking that you can just knock a guy out with one punch. That, common thing with quarterbacks. Giants at Cowboys. Note to Patrick Graham, Giants defensive coordinator: do not play man coverage against Dak Prescott. He will kill you and you will die. Last week, the Panthers, who have a defense better than the Giants have, played man coverage on 22 of Dak Prescott's passing attempts. Dak completed 14 of those passes for 188 yards and 4 touchdowns. Is that bad? That's bad. Yeah. Giants in man coverage this season: 108 for 108 of 144 for 1,086 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That is also bad. Correction: 3 of those touchdowns Dak threw against the Panthers came against man, not 4. So that's the thing. Note to Jason Garrett, the Giants offensive coordinator: let Daniel Jones throw deep. That is all. Yep. Might be your only shot against the Cowboys. And again, this Cowboys defense is not last year's Cowboys defense at all. It's not. This is like super Dan Quinn. This is full metal Dan Quinn. And it's great to see.
Yeah, I mean, Trayvon Diggs looks great. This defense looks much improved over last year. Dak is playing well. For the Giants, look, I did a whole thing on that game against the Saints. Daniel Jones, let him throw vertical. Jason Garrett deserves a ton of credit, I think, in my mind, for some of the stuff he did schematically.
We've both given Jason Garrett credit this year. We may be the only two football analysts in the world to do so.
Maybe, but I think more people kind of warmed up to Garrett after what they saw, him do against New Orleans. I thought that was a good game plan. This could be a fascinating game. I mean, I don't think that the Giants are necessarily as bad as 1-3 would have you think. I don't know if they're good enough to win this game though. But I think the Giants are better than 1-3.
49ers at Cardinals. I'm not sure what Garoppolo's status is. Trey Lance has been practicing with the starters this week. It could be a Lance game. Cardinals defense wrote a piece on this yesterday against the Rams. No matter how much 4x1 empty weirdness, double crossers and double slants, the Cardinals were not afraid of any of it. They were not afraid to play man and match against it. They weren't rolling 1 and 2 super deep as a lot of defenses do. And this showed up early when I watched the overhead. It was like, you guys are lining both of your safeties up in 2 deep, like 8 yards off the line of scrimmage against Matthew Stafford. That takes a lot of confidence. Budda Baker, Isaiah Simmons, Byron Murphy, 3 young players with franchise potential who have all shown massive improvement this season. And all of it, like the Cowboys defense this year: Osa Odigizua, the mostly defensive tackle who sometimes goes out as in, and the Panthers with Morgan Fox. Like these defenses that ascend, they all have these sort of secret superstars who just show up every week and you go, oh, I didn't know about him. Because Trevon Diggs and Micah Parsons, Osa is balling out.
Yep.
And the guy for the Cardinals is Jalen Thompson, 3rd-year, 5th-round supplemental draft pick out of Washington State. Lost his last year of eligibility. He was a Bednarik Award guy. He was like, 2nd team All-Pac, whatever it was at that point. 8, 10, 12. No, you never know. So he was not a secret coming out. He bought a substance that was not a steroid, but the NCAA didn't allow it. So he lost his last year of eligibility. Don't get me started on the NCAA as usual, but he's sort of been the guy who Stafford had a skinny post to Robert Woods in the end zone in that game. And Thompson knew exactly when to bump Woods off his stem and then just erased Woods in coverage once the throw was made. Robert Woods is one of the better, most consistent, most practiced route runners in the NFL. I'm not going to say the Cardinals defense is great, like top 5, but they're on the way. And all their young guys are sort of getting it. I know before the season, Vance Joseph said, okay, we tried to make Isaiah Simmons learn 6 different positions. Now we're going to play him at, Mike, and maybe he's still playing. Like, he played 3 snaps at outside corner against the Rams. And on one of them, Stafford was trying to throw a backdoor fade to Tyler Higbee, and Simmons had Higbee covered all the way. Stafford had to throw it up. He had to throw it away. That doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but you watch the tape and you're like, this guy's, 6'3", 240. He's playing outside corner against a tight end and he's shutting him down. So we all talk about Kyler, and he's playing rollerball with Rondale Moore. And they had that 12-yard drive against the Rams where all they did was run the ball. And I think Cliff is just like, yeah, you think I'm air raid, the Eli Manning double finger.
Right.
Like I said, I don't think they're not like what Carolina's defense is, but maybe they're what Carolina's defense was last year when Aaron Rodgers called them strange. It's just starting
and
like
that
the
offense,
Seahawks in 2012, where just okay, here we go.
And with that offense, that might be good enough. At least
30 points. I think they're the first team. I don't remember the exact, the first team in NFL history or in a long time to win their first 4 games and score at least 30 points in each game. Byron Murphy, his first season, 10 touchdowns allowed. His second season, I think 5 touchdowns allowed. I think this season he's allowed 1. He has 3 picks. And by the way, JJ Watt does not have a sack this year, but he has more total pressures than any interior defensive lineman not named Aaron Donald or Cameron Hayward.
That's pretty good.
And what he did to Rob Havenstein with this sort of hump move.
Yeah.
And Stafford somehow hit Woods on a 20-yarder because he's, Matthew Stafford, and he's insanely good. But he had Havenstein on the rack, and it was like this close to a sack. And you know how it is when a guy has that many pressures and no sacks, generally speaking, the sacks are coming, and it's going to be like a 4-sack game against somebody. Could be against Trey Lance. We'll see. But I love Arizona's offense. I think, Cliff has gotten out of his static personnel crap, but I do think that Vance Joseph and this defense, it's why they're not just a tough out anymore. They are a contender. They've passed the whole, aren't they, feisty phase. This is a team you now have to deal with, and they're not going away.
No, they're not.
This is a loud 4-0.
Yep.
Bills at Chiefs. I did a deep sort of tape dive on the Chiefs defense this week, and here are my notes. Why they just stink. Because Spagnuolo's not doing anything really radically different. And it was like, okay, we have the guys to do this, and we can play cover 0 blitz because Mahomes is going to throw for 18 touchdowns every game. But they move Chris Jones outside, and they're running really light at tackle. And they've allowed 584 rushing yards and a league high, tied with the Texans, 8 touchdowns from nose tackle to 4-eye. Anytime you're tied with the Texans this year, bad. Only the Seahawks and Eagles have allowed more rushing yards between the tackles. The linebackers are not playing well. L'Jarius Sneed is taking a step back. Tyrann Mathieu is still playing his ass off as always, but he's not having the same impact, probably because everyone else around him is just, they don't have Frank Clark. The Eagles game seemed to be the MO. Try a bunch of stuff, hope it works. It probably won't, but it doesn't matter because Mahomes will just go off. But when you're letting Jalen Hurts look like Dan Marino with running ability, this will not get you back to the Super Bowl. And I'm getting serious Bob Sutton flashbacks here.
Yeah. And I mean, it won't be easy. It certainly won't be like it was last week, right? Because now you get Josh Allen.
Now you get Josh Allen, who is Dan Marino with running ability when he's on.
Yeah, that offense looks to be sort of figuring it out.
Yep. Less static, more motion, more route concepts. I don't know why they got like super vanilla the first 2 weeks. That's not happening anymore.
No, it's not happening anymore. They're moving around pre-snap. Josh Allen is doing some great stuff post-snap. Obviously that Chiefs offense is going to score points. I mean, the problem is it's built to just overwhelm you. That roster is that team right now is built to just overwhelm you with points. The Bills can go blow for blow with them on the offensive side of the ball. And the Bills defense might be able to get a stop or two.
Well, let me tell you about the Bills defense. They've played broken offenses in the Steelers, Dolphins, Washington, the Texans. But I'm looking at, they prefer to play zone coverage. They are the NFL's best zone defense. 29 catches allowed on 54 attempts for 284 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks, and an opponent QBR of 45.6. Broncos rank second in opposing QBR allowed in zone coverage at 56.2. Levi Wallace has taken a major step forward. Tre'Davious White looks like the Tre'Davious he was before he got hurt last year. Teron Johnson, who had 2 pick sixes in the slot, one of Ben, one of Lamar last year. He's right there again. It seems like the entire linebacker core got picks against Davis Mills last Sunday because they did. Everyone, and what was their problem last year? Pass rush. It's not just Rousseau who's looking good. AJ Epinesa has taken a
huge step forward.
Ask Tua about that, because Epinesa was the guy who unfortunately knocked him out. He's damn near unblockable. Pat Mahomes can waste any defense when he's on, but this is another, it's kind of like the Cardinals, but at the next level with the Bills. The Bills defense, they were like a healthy Tre'Davious White and a pass rush away last year from just mowing the rest of the league over. And that's kind of where they are right now. I would posit at this point, the Bills defense makes them a slightly more threatening team than even their offense does. And that is scary.
Yeah, that is scary, but I think that's exactly right. And that defense, like I was just saying, will probably be good enough on Sunday night to get a stop or two. And in this game that we expect to be a track meet, that might be enough.
Now, Matt Milano, I was listening to, I don't know what his status is. I think he has a hamstring of some sort. I think it was Cosell on the Ross Tucker podcast was saying that. Mm-hmm. That'd be a problem because he's sort of the epicenter of the whole thing. But Tremaine Edmonds, I believe, won Defensive Player of the Week in the AFC. So yeah, they've got it all. And this is, I always admired Sean McDermott because usually defensive-minded head coaches will just, throw the offense to some half-ass, and he didn't do that. No. But now you're seeing zone heavy. That's Leslie Frazier. Blitz heavy. That's McDermott going back to his time with Jim Johnson in Philadelphia. Yeah. They have the personnel to match the scheme, and their defense was good last year. This year it's great.
Yeah.
And, it's why I picked them to go to and win the Super Bowl.
It's looking like a good pick.
Yeah. Let's see. Colts at Ravens. I want to get your thoughts about Lamar here. I thought he's starting to make some of the next level thing. He's putting the next level things together as a passer. He missed a couple of early hole shots early on against the Broncos, but I'm seeing him throw with better timing and anticipation, making throws he might not have made earlier in his career. When he said the thing about Greg Roman's offense being predictable, I went back and looked at the route concepts were actually pretty multiple. Lamar is just not seeing it. This year, I think he's seeing it better. Is that what you've observed, or am I just over here out of my mind? Maybe I watched it for coffee. I don't know.
No. That's what I saw that against Detroit. He was making some throws from the pocket, doing some sort of subtle pocket movement. Yeah, he had some misses against Denver. That's a good Denver defense. But he's still making some reads, making some throws, throwing with anticipation. Like I think he's gotten better from the pocket, which is one of the sort of major criticism of Lamar was. It was, he's always going to have to rely on the outside. He's always going to have to rely on his athleticism. He's not going to stand in there on the pocket on 3rd and 7 and make good reads and throws.
Which in 2019, when he won MVP, was absolutely untrue because he was one of the best quarterbacks from the pocket that year. Last year, Ronnie Stanley got hurt. He didn't have a pocket. So just to break in, that was a canard 2 years ago.
Yeah. But I mean, that's always been the line against Lamar has been, he's not an NFL passer. He's not an NFL pocket quarterback. I think he's a lot better. And this dates back to Louisville. Like I thought he was even good in the pocket at Louisville in that offense where he was asked to make reads and throws and progressions and all that stuff. And I pulled up during the year he was coming out, all these playbook examples and paired them with plays and said, look, these are the reads he's making. It's been the sort of easy crutch criticism of Lamar dated back to then. And I think it's been flawed. It was flawed then. I think it's flawed now.
I have to try and find, here it is. Now we're going to make Bobby Petrino jokes, Urban Meyer's here, but This book, which you told me about.
Yep.
This is the whole Petrino offense.
Yeah.
Lamar was running that shit. So,
Yeah. So
there you go.
yeah, I mean, I'm happy with where Lamar is sort of from a developmental and pocket management and all that stuff standpoint.
And I don't want to talk about Carson Wentz because it just makes me sad.
Okay, that works for me.
Yep. All right, good stuff, man. As always, go read Mark's piece on Baker Mayfield. It's top of the fold on Touchdown Wire. We got all kinds of tape stuff. Lori Fitzpatrick is coming up with a tape piece on Trevon Diggs. That'll be fun. Or actually, she did that, and now she's doing something on Stephon Gilmore. We're being very timely here. So check all that out. Keep it on Touchdown Wire. And my friend, we will talk to you next week.
Sounds great.